Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I'm talking about watches. Today I wanted to talk about the most important measurement of your watch, and that is the lug-to-lug measurement. So what is your lug-to-lug measurement? What does that mean? Well, on a watch, it's the measurement from one side of the case to the other. Not a width, but an overall length of that watch. So why, when you're looking up watches on these sort of big brand websites, do they not give you that dimension? They'll tell you how wide the watch is, they'll tell you how thick the watch is, but they won't tell you what the lug-to-lug measurement is. I'm actually not really sure. I think it's a little bit silly for them not to give you that measurement because it is the most important measurement that you have on a watch. But why is it the most important measurement? Well, it really dictates whether it fits your wrist or not. And there is a big range in different lug-to-lug measurements, as well as a big range in different wrist sizes. If you've got a smaller wrist, having a larger lug-to-lug is just generally not going to work for people. Some people don't mind the look of a watch being too big on your wrist, but most people really want it to fit within the wrist diameter and have a bit of a feel of the sort of the bracelet or the band moving around your wrist, rather than just dropping down from either side. And over the years, I've come to realize with my own experiences with watches that my 6 3/4 inch wrist really feels most comfortable with a lug-to-lug of 46 millimeters up to 48 millimeters. That is pretty much a guaranteed that the watch is going to fit my wrist. However, it is not the only sizes that fit my wrist. A couple of years ago, I bought myself a Longines Hydro Conquest, and the lug-to-lug on that is 50 millimeters. And I thought there was no way 50 millimeters was going to fit my wrist. However, when I went into store and I tried it on, and I returned and tried it on again, and I returned and tried it on again just to make sure, it fit perfectly. It was a beautiful fit to my 6 3/4 inch wrist. And it really had a lot to do with the width of the watch, the curvature of the case, the female end links on the bracelet. It just fit lovely to my wrist. So from that day forward, I had a slightly different opinion. I thought that generally watches with a lug-to-lug of 46 to 48 is pretty much guaranteed to fit me. However, if the case shape is correct, if it has that curved case shape that sort of sits down on your wrist, if it comes with female end links, well then I can go up to a maximum of 50 millimeters. However, I have to be a bit careful because it doesn't guarantee that it's going to fit me. I really want to sort of try those watches on. That was until very, very recently when I purchased this Seiko Sumo. I had completely discounted this watch, even though I thought it was a very good looking watch, because the lug-to-lug is 52 millimeters. And 52 millimeters to me was massive, way too big for my medium-sized wrists. However, I had a chat with a friend, a fellow watch enthusiast, who said that I should not discount this watch. He had a similar wrist size to me, very slightly bigger, and he loves his Seiko Sumo. And he said that it should fit my wrist because of that curvature of the case, because of the design of the case. So I then took a bit of a leap of faith and I bought one off the internet without trying it on. And when it arrived, I think it looks great. I think it actually fits very, very well. Now, I'm not going to say it's a small watch because it definitely is not a small watch, but it certainly fits my wrist. So what I want to do now, I'm going to flip the camera and I'm going to show you a few different watches from my collection, telling you the lug-to-lug length and showing you how they fit on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. So let's check out this variety of watches from my collection. So let's try a few of my watches on from my different collection with different lug-to-lugs to see how they fit on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. So firstly, I have my Vostok GMT, which has a lug-to-lug of 45 millimeters. And you'll see that is quite a short lug-to-lug. It's almost as wide as it is long. And you'll see that it fits and conforms to my wrist very, very easily. You can actually see parts of my wrist on either side protruding so that it is actually thinner than my wrist itself. You'll then see that this bracelet that I have on is actually works its way out from the watch and down around my wrist. We then have my Tactical Frog Captain Willard Homage, which has a lug-to-lug of 46.5. So it's just a little bit wider now, but you'll still see that it fits well within my wrist diameter. You can see the skin of my wrist on both sides, and you can still see that sort of leather strap bending away from the watch itself and curving around my wrist. The issue that I really have with watches that are too big is when you start getting to like that, and you can sort of look past your wrist, and then the strap sort of sits straight down. That's what I try to avoid. And look at my SKX 009, which has a lug-to-lug of 47.5 millimeters. It does end up having an effective lug-to-lug, slightly larger because of those end links, but let's just look at the watch itself. And you'll see, again, you can still see the wrist sticking out on either side of that case length, and it does sit nicely. It does, again, allow the bracelet to be actually seen to work its way off the watch and down and around my arm. Now we're getting bigger. My Longines Hydro Conquest is 51 millimeters. I thought it was 50, it's actually 51 millimeters. And you can still see the edges of my wrist, but it's now getting a little bit thinner. You're not quite seeing as much of my wrist. You are seeing the full length of the watch taking up a lot of my wrist. This is when now at this sort of lug-to-lug length that we now start needing some sort of tricks to help us along a little bit. You can see the curvature of the case, and you can see that it has female end links. If this had a flat case and male end links, then this watch would probably be too big for me. However, as it stands, the way it's built, with the lug-to-lug that it has, it still fits really well to wrist, and it's one of my favorite watches to wear, and it fits so beautifully that I love it. Now let's look at the Seiko Sumo with this fairly large lug-to-lug measurement of 52 millimeters. You'll see now that we're starting to see even less of my wrist on each side of the watch. So it really does need to use a few tricks, just like my Longines did. Firstly, there's that nice curvature of the case, and we have those female end links again. And if we see and we look down my arm, you will see that it actually does curve away, just like I want from a bracelet, just what I want from the strap. I want to be able to look straight down at the watch and still see the band curving around my wrist. As long as I can see that, and as long as I can not see these end links hanging over the top of my wrist, then it fits correctly and I'm happy with the fit. Again, what I do not want to see is it to look like that, hanging over the top of my wrist, and on the side, having a look at that bracelet hanging straight down from my wrist. So there's a few of the watches from my collection at a few different lug-to-lug lengths. And that's really all I have to say about lug-to-lug lengths. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you again in the next video.